Keely Heaps, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Yes, you as well.
We have some mutual friends, Beth, as we were just talking about.
Yeah, one of the most solid humans ever.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Joanna Lang and the Lang team.
Well, oh, yes.
I should call them, I still call them
Outline Financial.
I still call them Lang team, but it's Outline Financial.
Yeah, it's really led by the letting, so I think that's okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So when I started in this business, so I was working with Joanna as a client first, before I was actually in the business.
Yeah.
And then when we started in this business, Blair and I partnered. We started what was Blue Elephant Group.
Yeah.
I remember Joanna Lang said, keep an eye on Keely Heaps.
Oh.
Watch what she does and just do what she does.
Oh, hilarious.
So I've been hearing about you.
I'm going to call her and yell at her for that.
And so that was 2010, 2011. And this is the first time I met you.
Isn't that wild how quickly time goes by, too?
You know, it's wild.
And how much has changed since 2010. 2010 was the first year my GCI broke $1 million.
Amazing.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the business?
Since 1999, and which is really hard to believe, because I'm only 28.
I wouldn't guess that, just so you know. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and since 2010, so it was the first year we broke $1 million GCI, and we've grown by about 1,700% by then in terms of revenue.
Oh, I know your numbers.
Oh, yeah. You do?
I just checked them right before you walked through the door.
You think you know
I've checked
my
them a few.
numbers.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. That's right. But I'll tell you, whether they're accurate or not, at least it shows the trajectory and where you're trending, and it's been incredible to watch over the last few years.
Where are you checking, and I'll tell you if they're accurate?
I do IMS.
Okay, so it's not that RE data, which I find misses like 80% of our business. But
well, if IMS is accurate, anywhere near accurate, it's complementary. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, we did about $700 million this year in value.
Yeah.
What
so it's a little bit off.
Okay.
It's a little bit off.
Did they tell you 400?
No, 580.
Yeah, it's off by a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
And even more impressive when you break it down, 32 agents.
So that's a really good question. So we have, I would say, about 20 full-time agents, and then we've started an apprentice program. So in that apprentice program, we have 6 agents who are brand new to the business, who we're training. So they're not actively selling yet, but they will be once we feel comfortable to sort of push them out into the field. And then we also have a few people who are ambassadors. So agents who don't necessarily want to work full-time, but they want to refer business in. So I'd say we're about 20 full-time.
That's great. That's great. Since you brought it up, I want to dive into it. So I was going to start in other places, but I'll just pick up where you left off there. The apprentice program.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how that's structured?
Yeah, so it started it started a long time ago. So I hired my first employee, I guess it'd be like 16 or 17 years ago, and it was an unlicensed assistant, who then became like very instrumental to the business, but I also needed a sales assistant. So my first sales assistant I hired maybe 12 or 13 years ago, and she's now my top agent. So when you look at that trajectory of someone who joined me in her 20s, was paid $50,000 a year, now makes well into the 7 figures a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it became first of all, it's very motivational for me to know that we've had that impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
But also to have that opportunity to train other people in the industry. Our industry is sort of weird because people expect you just to jump in and know what the hell you're doing, and that's not how it works. So the apprentice program is meant to grab those shining stars that we meet, who people aren't really typically used to investing in, perhaps your brokerage does, but most brokerages have a very basic and standard training model, where ours is like an intensive all day, every day, 3 days or 7 days a week for 3 weeks before you even speak to a client. So, and there's no salary. It's all.
And is it a set timeline that they have to go through before they start actually talking to clients and trading, or is it you're engaging them along the way?
It's minimum 3 weeks, and from there it's whenever our sales director feels they're ready to interact with people. So some people it's just the 3 weeks, other people it's 3 months, and there's no pressure one way or the other. We just don't want them to interact with clients until we know the brand will be represented properly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you have built up a great brand. But I'll get to that. I want to go back. How did you get into real estate?
So I had a very circuitous route to get to where I am in life. So I left high school before I graduated. Some people would call that dropping out. And the reason I left is I found a job I loved after my 12th year. And at the time there was a grade 13. So I worked in the beer industry for a year and a half or 2. And then realized, I actually probably did need to go to university, but I had a lot of fun in that time. So I went back to my principal, and this is a long answer to a short question, but I went back to my principal and said, Like, this is what I've been doing for a year and a half. Do you want to speak to my boss? But I don't want to come back to school. I just need a couple of credits. What can we do here? And they said, okay, well, it looks like you've done some economics. It looks like you've done some of this. So they gave me the credits I needed, but it meant that I had to go to college before going to university. I had to demonstrate that I could handle the academics of...
That's great that he gave you that opportunity, though.
Amazing, amazing. So I went to college out west in BC for a year. I had one brother out there and a whole bunch of friends out there. So I did a year there, and I thought, okay, I can totally hack this. I had like a really good GPA and realized I wanted to go back to working while being in school. It's just my nature. So I moved back to Toronto, worked in an ad agency for my former boss who was in the beer business. Okay. And I worked at the ad agency while I finished my commerce degree. My degree is a major in marketing and a minor in psych. After that, after university, I sort of wasn't sure that I wanted to go back to advertising. It's a pretty disloyal industry, and it's like counterintuitive to who I am as a person. So my mom was a real estate agent, just like a single practitioner, doing a great job working in the Central Core of Toronto. She said, why don't you just come assist me? I just need an assistant for a year. I said, okay, sure, like no problem, whatever. So I kind of went and worked with her. I made $28,000.
And this is 1999?
1999. Okay. When I was 8 years old. And I worked with her for a year, and I made, I think, $28,000. And she said, okay, you're actually good at this. Like, go get your real estate license. Let's try and make something of it. So I did. I got my license, started working with her. And then in about 2010, she was ready to start slowing down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we had grown. We had grown from, like, her to her and I to adding in Pamela, our assistant. And then I guess we added in Megan right around 2010. And she's still with me. And then about 2006, I'm going to backtrack. In 2006, I started taking on the leadership role of the team. In 2010, my mom got sick with cancer. So I said, just stop working. Like, I don't want you doing anything. I'll still pay you. Just look after you. So then I jumped into running the team, and that's when Megan joined, and that's when we started to really grow because I needed the support. Our growth has always been organic. I've grown to satisfy.
Funny. That's right around the time that I just said that the Langs told me to start watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy,
Yeah, so 2010 was when we were like, okay, it's go time. And the growth has been mostly organic. I mean, I have a pretty strong business mind. I'm risk aggressive. I'm able to think things through. I'm able to make quick decisions. But the team's grown from then, so 3 of us, to now there's over 50 of us. And it's always been organic in the sense that it's always been to satisfy demand. I haven't sat down and said, okay, like by 2023, I'd like to have 50 employees. It's always been, let's grow with the market. So that's a really long answer to a short question. I got into it because my mom was in real estate as a single practitioner.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me what the journey has been like since 2010. Let's start at 2010 because like 4 of you to where you're at now and the type of volume that you're doing now.
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, so in 2010, I remember distinctly it being the first year our GCI broke $1 million. And we've grown by like 1,700% since then. It's been good. I really do. I love what I do most of the time. There are days where I truly hate it, but most of the time I love it.
It's called being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you get tired, right? Like, it's a job. What I would say is that in my role, even you and I, who are in the same industry and have similar number of people working with us, have very different roles.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can go speak to the broker owners. You can do that. I've never met anyone, or I've met very few people who have the role that I have, which is running a team, which is sort of functioning as a brokerage, but you're under the umbrella of someone.
Yep.
So there are a few great people like Georges Batagy, who's out of Quebec, who has a similar business, Ivan Scher out of Vegas, so people I've connected with who I can bounce ideas off, but there's not a ton of people. So I would say at times it's been very lonely. I'm a single mom with 3 kids, so I've always, the decisions I make in life in general have been
directly tied to them.
and made individually.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it. I'm used to making decisions on my own. But I've enjoyed it. I'm really, really, really proud to see the growth and the trajectory of the team. Even this year, like 2023, most people are down 40 or 50%. We've had our best year ever.
You know, I just said that right before you walked through the door.
Yeah. So, and we've gained about 17 market share, which in Toronto's no laughing matter. So it's been good. It's been great. I enjoy it.
I think I made that comment when we spoke on the phone. You know, the area that you've been focused on was dominated by a very small amount of people, and usually from the same brokerage. Yeah. And now I drive through Rosedale picking up my kids from school, and a lot of Heaps Estrin signs.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I think, you know what I think it is? What makes me proud is that our clients have grown the business. If people are happy, the word spreads. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is people feel confident in recommending us to their friends, family, neighbors, etc. And I'm like the most competitive person in the world. So if someone hires me, they better believe I'm going to fight for them.
You know, I was checking you out online, and you have quite a following on social and whatnot, but I would not call you a big content agent. No. Right? You are. I don't like being on this side of the camera. But I see you in community events, and I see you at functions, all my kids' functions at Moordale. You guys are there. Yeah. I've seen you in the, what's the annual fair?
Oh, Mayfair?
With your great little van, the coffee van. So
we got kicked out
I've taken lots of coffee from you.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually took a pumpkin from you lately. My kids came home with 2 pumpkins.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, with a Heaps Estrin bag. So you're very community focused.
I am, and that gives me a lot of pleasure. So I would much rather be face to face with people than be on a camera talking. I don't do TikTok. I don't.
You don't do the scissor dance?
No. What's the other thing that people do? There's TikTok, and then there's something else that people do. I don't know, but I don't do any of it. I'll do this type of thing. I'm happy to have conversations. I'm happy to speak at conferences. I think as an industry, you know, you have a decision to make. You can either sell real estate or you can be a media personality. I've chosen to sell real estate. For me, that works. I don't have the time to put out content every week. You know, I speak to some agents. I just participated in a great little one-day session called Agent Confidential, and a lot of it was about content, and I was so impressed by what people were doing. But ultimately, I don't have 2 days a week to carve out to go and film me. You have to be very strategic and efficient with it. Yeah. Right? It's not, you're absolutely right. There's, not to get too controversial here, but there's 2 segments I see happening in the whole content creation. There's your agents that actually have a really big book of business and clientele that they're working with, and the content is their way of engaging with that clientele without being in front of them every second day. So it's a really good way for them to be top of mind. And then you just have people that are trying to be influencers. And so they're in this business, they're not actually doing the business, but they're talking about it. But they're talking about it all the time, right? It's a funny thing. It's like a weird. Our new tagline is "One expert advice, hire an expert," and that's sort of the way that I view what we do. Yeah, I think it's the way that I view what we do. Is I don't think you're going to get better advice from someone in the marketplace in our core markets than you will from my team. I think there's a place for content. Like there's 3 or 4 agents on my team who I would love to do more content. I would love for them to be, you know, social media influencers within the real estate space. So I think that coupled with a strong brand is a, you know, pretty beautiful relationship. But I don't think it will ever be me. I really dislike having my photo taken. So. I'm the exact same way, and I'll tell you how I started doing this. We hired Gray Media to, you know, we've never really showcased the company. We've never showcased the leadership team. We've always been ones to showcase the agents. So we've been a content company and a marketing company for real estate agents. So when we brought Cameron in to kind of analyze what we're doing, you know, Blair, my business partner, loves the microphone. He came out of the womb with a microphone in his hand, wants to get on stage. No, he's not. No. And he's great at it. He's great at it. I'm just behind the scenes. I'm the business guy. You know, I'm creating the business plan and making sure it's executed on. And I never put myself in front of the camera. But I said, I love talking to people like yourselves, like talking to entrepreneurs and having casual conversations. And that's the way we pull content and turn this into 15 clips. Then it's a great way to do so. Is it ever? It's smart. To showcase the company and the team. I should probably do it too. You know, maybe I'll start. We just finished talking about you. We were talking about how it's such an amazing book of business and layering a bit of content creation on it so that you're building trust with people that you don't even know yet would be great. But how much time you're doing very well. I do this once a week. For how long?
About an hour or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I had somebody in this morning, did an hour with him.
Who's that?
It was actually a Laneway House company out of Hamilton, which I'm a huge fan of right now, Laneway Housing.
Yeah, I have a great guy here if you want.
I'll send you this video that U of T just did. We were talking about it on the episode, but we're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, that's all right.
Where was I?
You were talking about...
We were talking about how much time you spent on content.
Oh, and content,
Yeah.
But no, I was talking about your community
yes,
focus.
if I were to weave those two together.
Yeah, if you were to weave those two together. But one of the things you've done that I really like is the lobby. Tell me about the lobby. It's beautiful. I haven't been in.
Oh, you've got to go check
it
out.
But I've definitely creeped on it, like looking in, and it looks great.
Yeah, it was a really different concept. So in May of 2022, I was at home. I can picture it. I was sitting on the couch, and one of my favorite stores, Heaps and Grace, posted that they were moving. I thought, oh my God, they're leaving like the best piece of commercial real estate in all of Toronto. So I quickly figured out who the landlord was, sent the landlord a message. Turns out it was someone I knew because he used to work the ice cream shop where my kids would go. And went and met with him the next day, and we basically shook hands on it. And it's a ridiculous amount of rent. It's like the most expensive rent in Toronto.
It's like prime.
It's like $100 a foot. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But I agreed to it. I was like, you know what? Something in me tells me this is the right decision to make. I had no business plan. It obviously wasn't going to be just a real estate office because that would bore people to tears, but I wasn't sure what it would be. So took the space with, I think it was the July closing, and then started meeting with my management team and saying, okay guys, what are we doing here? Like, we got to do something different. What's it going to be? So we decided that the second floor would be like a hoteling space where our agents can come and go and work from there.
Oh, I didn't realize you had the second floor.
Yeah,
oh, great.
And we have the back space too. Okay. So the second floor is like a hoteling space, and then my own private office, my second office, and that we would use the second floor as event space as well. So none of the furniture upstairs is fixed; it's all movable, and we also have a full kitchen and bathroom upstairs.
Great.
And then the main floor was a big question. So the main floor is the retail component, very high visibility. We knew we had to treat it as a billboard, but we didn't want it to feel like real estate. We had so many people in the community mad that we weren't a restaurant opening or that we weren't another retail store opening. So we decided that it would be a concierge desk, that it would be all things between transactions. So if you need a painter, come talk to us. If you need a designer, come talk to us. If you need a dinner reservation, we know everyone in the city anyways. We might as well just get you the reservation. But ultimately that wasn't enough to get people in the door. So then we started thinking about what is it that we do? We sell lifestyle. So let's start talking about lifestyle. Like, what does that look like? So it's designers. So we feature different designers. It's an art gallery. We have a beautiful art gallery. The art rotates every 6 to 8 weeks. And then it's a curation.
Local artists or broader?
All local, fairly local, not Toronto, but all Canadian artists. And then a curation of our favorite things for home, so retail. And the retail has really taken off, actually. It's all things you can't really buy other places, so like highly, highly curated. And then at the back of the space is a real estate office. So originally we were going to treat it as our neighborhood boardroom where the community could use it to book meetings and meet with whoever they wanted. But it becomes a little bit of a liability to have all these people coming and going that aren't tied to your business.
Especially and everything.
Yeah, and so we decided to turn it, that portion is a real estate office, but it's built to look like a dining room. So if people are walking in, they can come in and out and visit, but it's generally speaking meant for private meetings. So it's been good. It's been a really interesting year. We're like 1 year and 1 month into it. It's not a profitable business model at all, but it is a great conversation starter.
And did you find it's successful on the client nurturing side of things?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the events, we do a ton of events.
It's hard to measure that as a business model, right?
It is, but we do, I think, a pretty good job of chasing down the metrics on it. And most importantly to me, it's done two things. It's allowed us to have conversations we wouldn't otherwise be having with people. And secondly, I hated the pandemic and not being able to be with people. So it's allowed us to bring people together. So I'm a very social person. So my friends all call it the after hours club. Like, we'll end up back there after events or whatever. Yeah. So it's been good. It's been fun.
That's great. I love it. I love the concept. And yeah, like I said, I haven't been through, but I've creeped looking through the windows and it looks amazing.
You'll have to come down sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where was I just about ahead with that? You said something that... I can't remember. But
it'll come back to you.
Talk about entrepreneurship. I've been on a bit of a rant lately, and that rant is, 95% of realtors I don't consider entrepreneurs.
Correct.
They have entrepreneurs written in their bios,
Yeah.
but they're not entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm right or wrong.
No, I agree with you. So I was raised by entrepreneurs. My dad grew up very, very modestly, and he opened Canada's first microbrewery in the 80s called Upper Canada Brewing Company. And my mom, obviously, was an entrepreneur, like truly an entrepreneur. She started in real estate, but she built an amazing business. And then I have 3 brothers who are all entrepreneurs. One started Steam Whistle, one started Australian Boot Company, and then one is out west.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
and
an impressive
yeah, we were just born that way. Like we were just born willing to take risks. And then my other brother's out west and owns a commercial property appraisal business. So we are all entrepreneurs. I think people conflate the term entrepreneur with being self-employed. I think being self-employed is very different than being an entrepreneur, because many people are self-employed. It doesn't mean you're creating something. You're not creating a business necessarily.
Building something, an infrastructure.
Yeah. And I think with entrepreneurship, it's more than just growing a business. It's trying to change the way business is done, or trying to view it a bit differently, in my opinion anyway.
Which I think is very needed in this industry.
It is. Right? Our industry is antiquated. Our industry, people love to hate our industry. And I understand why. There's some total dicks
I totally
in our
get
industry.
it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
But I also think there can be a lot of good in the business. And I think that if you strip away some of the bullshit that's tied to real estate and just look at the fundamentals, there is still a lot of good out there. And I think that's, like simplicity is often the best approach. We don't need to be reinventing the wheel here.
No.
Like just care about the client, care about the outcome, work hard to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, people think when you're self-employed that it makes you an entrepreneur. But from a realtor perspective, if you don't know where your next commissions come from, you're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and if you're not building.
If you're not building something, if you're not creating infrastructure and having systems in place to be nurturing your existing database and creating new members of that database and nurturing them, you're not an entrepreneur, right? I think...
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like I think some people are not meant to be entrepreneurs. We can't all
It's true,
yeah.
and I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that's 100% fine. If you want to make $100,000 a year, or you want to make $200,000 a year, and the way you're doing it right now is fine, then that's fine. But it's you need to know where your business is coming from, right? You need to know where when you set out the first quarter of every year, you need to know what your plan is for that year to ensure you did what you did last year, if not better.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I would say I spend at least 30%, maybe 50% of my time planning, like doing strategic planning, vision for the company, marketing. I love marketing, so marketing, conceptualizing marketing, not executing. And then I still sell, right? I still sell real estate because I like it. But yeah, I think a lot of people, and I think if you look at the players in the real estate world now and you look at the Toronto landscape of brokerages, it's not really that exciting. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, yeah.
Yeah. It's, the brokerage world has really gotten compressed over the last few decades, right? Like the commissions have been pushed down, like the brokerage split between the agent and the commissions, and with that, the service offering, right? So we preach about that a lot here. The most brokerages are call centers and, bookings for agents and deal processing.
Yeah, agreed.
And there's really no other infrastructure in place to help agents succeed in business and help with business development and marketing and whatnot.
We're so different.
Yeah.
We're so different. So I would say the reason we've become so successful is we are a totally different model, not just in the support that we offer. So our team is roughly 50% sales, 50% everything else. So that's pretty unusual to have a support team and marketing team and management team of that size. But then also just the way we structure the business, we generate a huge number of leads for our agents, and then we market for them. We do all the marketing. They just have to push it out through their channels, but we'll create it. And then the network, I'm very fortunate to be tied to a much broader network than just Toronto real estate, and I think the team benefits from that as well.
Where does that network come from?
A million different places. A lot of it, I coached with someone a few years ago who introduced me to a lot of the top agents in the U.S. who I've maintained great relationships with. We've just launched, or we're about to launch, Heaps, Estrin Global, so very high-end global partnerships and projects. So right now we have projects in St. Lucia, Antigua, Florida, Revelstoke, Scotland. So just industry, just life, you know, like I'm a pretty
I think it's very important.
Person.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, I'm a very social person. I'm shy. I was born shy, so it's weird that I'm social now, but I am a social person. But for me, it's all about people. Like everything I do is about, it's people driven. I don't even know what I make until the end of the year. People think that's bullshit, but it's true. I know what the company's doing, don't get me wrong. I don't have my head in the sand, but I don't necessarily know what I'm making until the end of the year. So yeah, I think that network and that perspective is a little bit different. Like when I'm looking at industry, I'm not looking at Toronto to motivate me within the real estate industry. Very respectfully, there's no.
You're at the top of the game.
Well, I don't know that I would say that, but I appreciate it. But I don't look here and think, oh my God, that person down on Bloor Street is like the most inspirational real estate leader in Canada. I just don't. I think that there's pieces that we see from different people that build a beautiful model, but I don't know that there's one person who's exactly the way I would want it to be.
It's funny, I was going to ask you, my next question was going to be ask you, you've been named on this question comes up in every episode, and you've been named in the past by somebody.
Oh, that's nice.
But who is your mentorship? And the person that named you said, she doesn't know she's my mentor, but I watch everything she does.
Oh, who was it?
That was Heather Haddon.
Oh, isn't that funny? I didn't know that. No. Yeah. I don't know that I have a mentor within the industry. I have many outside of the industry. So I'm very fortunate to be part of YPO, which is an amazing group, Young Presidents Organization. And it is a group of entrepreneurs and like hired guns, super smart people who are performing at the very top of their game. And I was fortunate enough to be allowed entry a few years ago. And I'm surrounded by people who I'm completely in awe of, who are so smart, who are leaders in their industries, who are just like absolutely amazing to be with. So I'd say that's probably where I get the most motivation, is from my YPO groups.
I think that's important. You know, it's I look outside the industry for my guidance and mentorship as well, and I think it's really important because like some of our frustrations that I think we both have with this industry, you know, it comes from people doing the same thing over and over.
Over and over again, yeah.
Right, and no real innovation.
And I think just different perspective, right? Like if you can look at your business from like the 100-foot view or the 1,000-foot view, what you see is totally different. So trying to see your business not only from that perspective, but also from the side perspectives, I don't know, I just think it gives you a total different line of sight into what you're doing. So I would say I have a much more vertical perspective of the business. I understand the overview, I understand where we're sitting, but I try and look at it from across so many different verticals.
You brought up a few different partnerships and things you're working on. Tell me about the importance for realtors or teams establishing partnerships within the industry, like Outline Financial, for example.
Yeah, so we have some great partners in the business. I think one of our most interesting ones was we were approached by BMW Canada. I don't even know how many years ago that was. With COVID, I can't tell time anymore. Maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And they said, we've been watching your brand. You've positioned yourself as a luxury brand within the Toronto space. And we want to test this idea with you. It's called Stage Your Driveway. So we want to put a BMW in your luxury list, in the driveway of your luxury listings. There's data out of the US that shows that with a luxury car in the driveway, the house will sell for more. And we said, okay, we're open, let's try it.
It's interesting.
So we tried it, and they won the advertising campaign of the year award that year. Someone just texted me and said, did you know you're in a textbook? So that was a great partnership because it gave us awareness of how we're viewed outside of the industry. We're no longer partners with BMW, not for any reason, just that that campaign ended. And then Jaguar approached us, and they asked us to be their brand partner. And then we had a liquor company recently approach us. So we've had like these really interesting brand relationships that sort of spread the word of who we are and what we do. And then within the industry, of course, we have amazing partners like Outline Financial, Corman & Company is our in-house legal. We're very loyal to both of those companies, but it's never, for me, it's never just a one partnership model. I think that we have to have options for our clients. So in addition to Outline, of course, we have relationships with RBC and CIBC and whatnot, but Outline would be our first go-to probably.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We deal with Outline. We also deal with Corman, and then we deal with Corman Company, right?
Yeah.
The brothers, which have the different firms. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think it's good to be surrounded by good people, and I think certainly for the team, they're happy to have those resources at their disposal.
Do you see any big changes coming to the industry?
Huh. You want to talk about the lawsuit in the U.S.?
No. I think it's heading in the right direction. I think that taking that to the Supreme Court is the way to go.
Yeah.
And, kudos to my own company, Gino at Home Services of America, and to Gary Keller as well for fighting it and not bowing out early.
Yeah, I think it raises a really interesting question because typically commission is only an issue in the absence of value. So if we're not providing value, then we shouldn't be paid, is my belief. Mm-hmm. So why don't we, instead of freaking out and worrying about it, just say, okay, what can we do to provide more value? Well, like, what can we do so that people want us in their corner, as opposed to people literally suing us to get out of their corner? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that's my approach to it, is, okay, what else do we have to do so people really want us there? I don't want to fight my way into a party that no one wants me at. Mm-hmm. I'd rather be invited because people are super keen to see me.
With some changes that we just talked about and the current state of the market, especially here in the GTA, the current state of the market, you're having your best year ever, but a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't just happen, by the way. I've worked 10 times harder this year.
Yeah,
like,
for
it's
sure.
all hard work.
No,
You
it's
can't
not
cheat
luck.
hard work.
No. Yeah, people need to see where your luck came from, which is the hours that you put in.
Yeah,
right?
It's not luck.
No, but I think you're going to see a lot of people leave the industry, and I think that
it's not a bad thing.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and I don't mean it needs to happen because there's a whole bunch of shitty agents. I think it needs to happen because there's a whole bunch of people who are great people who have full-time jobs who treat this as a hobby. Well, and you can't give the advice you need to give.
You can't do the same service that you're providing.
There's no way.
When you're doing this part-time.
I wouldn't
it's just
hire
not a
lawyer
part-time.
who does this 10 hours a week or does their job 10 hours. I wouldn't go to a doctor who practices 1 week a year. Like, no thanks.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
What about education and where it's heading? Do you see any?
I'm a huge proponent of education. So in all things, like, I personally try and better myself.
How do you find the realtors that are coming out of the new program versus the old?
I don't know that I have enough
data
hand-on experience to speak to it. I think anything that requires that raises the barrier to entry is a good thing.
That's it.
Yeah, so I'd say it's a good thing. I think what we talk about as a team is there's literacy within our industry that many people don't have. Like, you should be able to speak about the stock market. You should be able to speak about investments as a whole because this is an investment. You should be able to give advice in that way.
We're technically under the finance world, right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, like, for me, okay, great. So you go to university for your real estate courses now, fantastic. But can you get in a room with the CEO and say, okay, this is how I want you to look at your asset? Most people cannot do that.
Get eaten alive, yeah.
Yeah. Like, right now, my conversations with sellers is not, the market's shitty. Yeah, the market's shitty. So do you want to wait? You can wait a year. Maybe the market will be better. Maybe it won't. Or you can take your money out, and yes, you're getting less money, but you're getting 8% in the stock market. That's going to outpace Toronto's real estate market this year. So the decision's yours. Like, I think there's ways to view things a little bit differently, and I think most people don't take that approach. I'm very fortunate, again, to have the background I have and to have a commerce degree and perhaps to have some more exposure to the financial world. But if I'm hiring someone to sell my asset, I really would hope that they understand the financial world more than just, like what the last 6 houses sold for down the street.
The comparables.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's so interesting right now is our market historically has been driven by demand, and it is still to a point, but right now I feel like we're driven by the most desperate sellers. So the most desperate sellers are setting pricing for everyone. It's a really horrible feeling if you're a seller to have someone else control your asset that way. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. How do you see 2024 shaping out?
I plan on vacationing a bit. I think it'll be pretty flat. The only good news is when the bonds went down last week, maybe our interest rates will go down, and the second the interest rates go down, it's going to get busy. I just don't know if the interest rates are going to go down in 2024. I think it's either Q3 or 4.
The demand is still there, right? And I guess my fear is that there will just be another frenzy all over again when they do come down and the mentality comes.
We know there will be.
The demand's there, right?
Yeah, we know there will be, yeah. I mean, I think there will be. I think that, again, like in these markets, so when we're in down markets, usually, so in a normal market, I'm usually very much revenue focused. In a down market, I forget about revenue. I know I'm going to spend more. I know I'm going to make less. What I focus on is market share. Because to me, this is like hunting season. This is the time where you go out and get market share.
Yeah. I agree. That's great. Speaking of vacationing and resetting,
yes.
I hear you like to head east.
East, yes. I have a house in Newfoundland.
Nice.
Actually, I have
Whereabouts
two.
in Newfoundland?
So I have one in Port Rexton. That's my original house,
Okay.
and we love it. The kids and I love it. It's like very much our happy place in the world. And then I had a second one that I had to give to my ex-husband in the divorce, which made me a little bit angry. So I went and bought one impulsively in Salvage, which is just south of Fogo. And I love that house too, but it's too much for me to manage everything. So I will ultimately sell that one.
Okay.
And then the other place I go is I grew up in the Caribbean. So I grew up spending a ton of time in St. Lucia.
St. Lucia's great.
Oh, it's great. My dad lives there in the winter.
Oh, really?
So, and my brothers, I have two brothers who spend a lot of time there.
Such a beautiful island.
Oh, yeah. I just got back on Saturday, actually. So I spend a fair amount of time in the Caribbean. I mean, I say a fair amount of time, not that much, like 4 weeks a year, but it's all I need.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what do you see for the next 5 years for Heaps Estrin?
Growth. Yeah, continued growth. I'm not good at stagnating. Like, it's really a difficult place for me mentally. So we just did our projections for next year. Our goal is 21% growth for next year. I think it's workable. You know, we've gone through everyone's numbers. We know who we have and what they're willing to do. I know my numbers from this year, and when we put it all together, it works out to about 900 million in volume next year if we hit our goal.
Amazing. And what did we just say?
700 this
700.
year.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I might know the answer to this already, but these are the two hardest questions. Everybody stresses about these
Okay,
for some
don't ask me
reason.
who I'm in love with.
I'm
Joking. I'm joking. I said, don't ask who I'm in love with. I was
Okay,
joking.
I won't. Your two. Okay, ask what you're in love with. What your
No.
two favorite neighborhoods?
What am I in love with? Well, of course, my children and travel, I would say. My favorite neighborhoods. So I grew up in Moore Park, which I love, but I now live in Rosedale. And and it sounds so snooty to say this, but what I love about Rosedale is I can walk anywhere. So I walk to Yorkville all the time. I love going to Yorkville. I equally love popping down into the ravine and spending time in the ravine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I love about Rosedale is you're right downtown, but you don't have to
You feel-
see a commercial
you feel
building.
distance, yeah.
Yeah, I can spend an entire weekend on foot and not see a commercial building.
Mm-hmm.
Even just on Sunday, I went down for a walk in the ravine. And you see people you know, and it's just great. So I would say Rosedale for sure. And I love Trinity Bellwoods. Like when I first moved out, I was 17 when I first moved out of my family house, and I lived in Parkdale, which at the time was a very different Parkdale than it is today. But I spent a lot of time in Trinity Bellwoods, which at the time it was just called Queen West, but now it's called
So
Trinity
different
Bellwoods.
now.
Yeah,
It's so different. Like
it's
that.
so different now.
Sure, you've been to the park on a Saturday or Sunday in the summer, like on a
It's-
35-degree day.
It's so different.
You can't even see the grass. There's so many people.
And
It's
it was
incredible.
never that before.
No.
But I think if I lean back to where I was at that point in my life when I was 17, living independently, spending tons of time down there on foot. I didn't have a car, obviously. I still love it. Like, I go back and I still just love it.
Yes,
And that
yeah.
whole, like, Dovercourt, Ossington, Bloordale. Like,
That's great.
I
It's
sort
great.
of love that area.
It's great for the evenings, especially,
Yeah.
right? Like restaurant scene. It's amazing.
Yeah, and when I first started in real estate, people used to say, oh, what do you think's the next up-and-coming neighborhood? And back then, I used to say Don Mills, but it's peaked already, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about restaurants? Your two favorite restaurants?
Okay, so I love Julia, Osteria Julia. I love the guys there. I love the team there. I love the food there. And it feels special. You know, they know you. I walk in, they know me. They treat me beautifully. But it's a really, it's a treat restaurant. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
wouldn't
great.
go there every
Yeah.
day. And where else do I love? Mamakas down on Ossington, I love.
Thanos Trippy, yeah.
Yeah.
He's coming on here soon.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
He's a great restaurateur.
Yeah, I really like that place. Trying to think of where else. Oh, I mean, my local Bar Central, on the main floor of Trony is where you can find me often.
My kid's favorite place too.
It's so it's funny. I don't often go upstairs. I'm typically main floor only.
Yeah.
And then Quantabasta is next to the lobby. They do a good
Quantabasta.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so
La
intimate,
Tigre
yeah.
is my favorite cocktail bar. I don't know if you've been to La Tigre, but
No,
it's
I
the
haven't.
guys who did Crybaby down on Dundas.
Oh wait,
They
is that
just
in the corner
opened.
of Roxborough? No.
It's a corner of Gibson and Young on the second
Okay,
floor above
okay.
Paul Hahn.
Okay, no.
Great cocktail bar. Just good guys, just good people. Oh yeah, I have so many. Black Camel for sandwiches. I think those guys are awesome.
My wife's favorite like lunch place. Like,
oh, it's great. I don't eat bread or gluten, so for me, I just eat the toppings. But love it. I mean, I could go on forever. We're a total foodie family.
It's a city that you can, right? Like it's
100%.
Toronto's great that way.
Yeah, 100%. We just went to Aloe Salon in Yorkville for a dinner.
I haven't been there yet to the new one. Yeah.
Oh my God, unbelievable! Probably one of the best dinners I've ever had in my life.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's great.
Good.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate meeting you and finally in person, and been hearing, seeing you and hearing about you for years.
So thank you.
It's great having you here.
Thank you. Well, we'll have a drink with Beth one day.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.